This is the Viofo A119 Mini Mark II, a moderate upgrade to the original A119 Mini that brings in a new image sensor and improved low light capability. Viofo sent me this camera to test. Thank you, Viofo. So I'm going to be primarily showing you some video samples and letting you come to your own conclusions about this camera. The camera body is more or less the same as the original A119 Mini, with no changes in design except for that little faceplate that says A119 Mini 2. In terms of functionality and handling, it's about the same as well. Viofo keeps adding features to these cameras, and that's a good thing, but now the menus are starting to look a little bit outdated and difficult to navigate because there's so many things in one long list. In my opinion, the menus are the one thing that Viofo needs to improve with these cameras, because a new Dashcam user may see this long list of settings and have no idea what some of them do, what needs to be changed or customized for their own user experience. Beyond that, more or less everything is here though. There are parking modes and even some new features, including the ability to turn down the startup volume. Thank you, Viofo. Now let's get into video quality. This is a 1440p 60 frames per second dashcam, and it has HDR at 1440p 30. The debate between using HDR and achieving a better dynamic range, or 60 frames per second to get higher frame rate and possibly freeze license plates, that could be its own video. But for the most part, I was shooting in 1440p 30 with HDR turned on. And yeah, for the most part, video quality is as expected for a 2K dashcam. It's sharp throughout the frame, colors are bright and vibrant, and license plate readability is moderate to high depending on relative speed and distance from the other vehicle. For example, at highway speeds, license plates are not readable in oncoming traffic. However, at slower speeds, especially when coming up to stoplights, then the license plates become readable. For an example of license plate readability, here's a bright sunny day, pretty much the ideal circumstances for the camera to operate at higher shutter speed. In this first shot, a car is passing me in the left lane at a slow relative speed, and I have no issues reading its license plate. We're pretty close together as well. I mean, there's only this one single line separating us. But then further down the drive, we get into this tight winding section where it's single lane traffic in both directions. Both cars are going between 70 to 90 kilometers per hour, and none of these license plates are readable. Using a 60 FPS mode does improve license plate capture at high speeds somewhat, but the truth is that these relative speeds are so great, the camera just doesn't have the shutter speed to freeze the action. Compare that to this shot in the neighborhood where I'm going slowly around a Tesla that's parked on the wrong side of the road because I have no idea what this guy is going to do. Easily readable license plate just due to the lower speed. Because I'm rolling past slowly, no problems. It's the same thing when all of these vehicles are stopped at a stoplight. Because we're all stopped, our relative speed is quite low, 0. So all of our license plates are readable. I find in HDR mode, especially on overcast days, the camera errs on the side of being slightly darker. And I don't mind that because I'd rather have a slightly darker video, a slightly higher frame rate, and less chance of a randomly blown out license plate that I can't read. Speaking of relative speed, as it gets darker out, the relative speed needed in order to read license plates gets smaller and smaller. So for example, during twilight, more or less, maybe 10 to 20 kilometers per hour, you'll be able to read the license plate. But at night, in the dark, in low light, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to be able to read license plates when both cars are passing each other at speed. This van here at this stoplight is an excellent example, because while both vehicles are stopped, the license plate on the van is easily readable. However, once everyone starts moving, the oncoming truck is not readable whatsoever, despite the fact that we're both going at relatively slow speeds. The camera's overall night footage is quite good though. It's bright and vibrant, lots of detail, not a ton of noise, even with the CPL filter on. As a bit of an aside, I'm using a brand new windshield here, so this is pretty much premium dashcam footage. The best footage you can get because the windscreen is not scratched yet. This next clip crossing the bridge, me and the car in front of me are going at a very similar relative speed, and its license plate is actually readable, despite the fact that my headlights are pretty damn bright. So yeah, this is a really good result, and the HDR mode does seem to work pretty well at night. Right, let's switch to the dashcam's built-in microphone for an audio sample. Just at the start of Manning Park here, and Yeah, what a beautiful day for a drive. It's super tempting to just gun it up one of these steeper uphill slopes, but I have to drive a little bit more conservatively if I want to make it all the way without having to charge. Mind you, having to charge midway wouldn't be too bad either. It would be maybe like a 10 to 15 minute charge, but still that's 10 to 15 extra minutes of driving, time spent in or around the car, versus hanging out at the beach or sitting in a swing chair or, just anything else. So yeah, look at those big beautiful mountains as we drive into Carameus here. Interesting fact, if you stay in the town long enough, you'll hear rocks rolling down those mountains pretty consistently too. It makes quite a loud noise, kind of a cracking. To our right, where I'm turning and driving to now, is Cathedral Lake Lodge. I've heard really cool things about that being one of those pristine and untouched wilderness areas, but never had the chance to actually explore there myself. Same thing, you kind of need a 4x4 to get in, or you could take a shuttle from the Cathedral Lakes Lodge, which is pretty expensive to do, but I've heard really good things about it. I wonder if the orange from the forest fire smoke is going to come through on the camera, because it is really, really strong right now.
Other features of this camera: 5 GHz Wi-Fi means much faster app loading time and video downloading time. Pretty important if that's your only way of accessing the micro SD card. Also, the camera has several parking modes: impact detection, which is the standard parking mode, only recording if there's an impact; low bitrate recording, which constantly records at a lower bitrate for small file size; and time-lapse mode, which takes 1 frame every second or couple seconds, and then stitches that into a video until the camera detects an impact. An extra hardwire kit is needed to access parking mode, and since this camera has a USB Type-C instead of a mini USB, the older hardwire kits are not compatible with it. As far as single-channel dashcams go, the Viofo A119 Mini version 2 is an incremental update over the original A119 Mini, but it does improve in some key places, most notably the low-light footage. In terms of single-channel dashcams, it's a winner, and if you do have an older Viofo A119 V1 or V3, I think it is finally worth the upgrade. Thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful. And as usual, I'll leave a ton of sample footage in the outro, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe while you're watching this sample footage. See you in the next one.